Now this new campus, Cornell NYC Tech, will spur economic growth, and as you heard the mayor say, create thousands of jobs. But it will spur us to utilize technology in a different way, not tech for tech's sake, but tech in support of commerce, areas where New York City, and I must say the United States, have a competitive advantage. And so follow along with us as we develop this project. A $2 billion project that will eventually accommodate 2,000 graduate students, and if we hit our projections, which I know we will, this will increase the graduate cohort training in those disciplines in New York City by over 50%, just this campus.
So 2017, 5 years from now, is when we plan to open the first academic building on Roosevelt Island. We plan to get the lease from the city for the property by the end of 2013, then demolish the buildings that are currently there in 2014, begin construction, and move in 2017. Since the whole purpose of this campus is tech entrepreneurship, from an entrepreneur's point of view, you know, next fall is far away. 5 years from now is infinite. Forget about it. So this is wonderful. It's using a lot of our time in planning and in working with the city government and all kinds of agencies in getting this planned out. But we're starting this fall. And we're starting this fall in space that Google's providing for us free of rent in the building that they own in Chelsea, at 111 8th Avenue. This thing is a startup. It's a startup that happens to be inside a university in partnership with the government, which is about as big a problem as you could imagine in some ways. Since startups need to be nimble and universities are completely lumbering, and the only thing more lumbering than university is the government. But it's also, you know, it's an exciting opportunity, and I think that anyone who started a new business or a new anything will recognize this. The culture that you set up in some new entity as you get it off the ground is incredibly important. And so our culture on this new campus in New York City needs to be a culture of Cornell, but also a culture that is much more commercial than the Ithaca culture, than the traditional Cornell culture here in Ithaca. And in fact, we're looking at this as combining the academic leadership and excellence that we know at Cornell, or maybe even raising the bar on that as hard as it is, together with real commercial success and societal impact of technology, and bringing those together. So it's really three cultures that have been relatively disparate in the world that we're planning to bring together into one culture. And just to sort of emphasize that this isn't a business as usual campus, in fact, our first hire on the academic program side is not a traditional academic, is not a traditional tenured professor. It's a guy named Greg Pass, who was until fairly recently the CTO of Twitter. He's a serial software entrepreneur, and he's going to be relocating to New York next month to help us set up all of the entrepreneurship programs and to bring the entrepreneurial technology mindset to things as we develop the academic programs.
The proposed project will be built in 2 phases over 20 years and result in the development of approximately 2.13 million square feet of academic, teaching, and research space, residential units for Cornell leadership, faculty, postdoctoral fellows, and graduate students, partner research and development space, an executive education center with hotel and conference facilities geared towards fostering commercial innovation and interaction between Cornell, NYC Tech, the academic community, and local businesses and startups. Campus-oriented retail will be provided within this program, and the proposed project would also result in a minimum of 2.5 acres of new publicly accessible open space. The project would also upgrade the loop road around the campus that connects it with the rest of the streets on the island.
The next question are about the degree of zoning flexibility that's built into the zoning. You showed us minimum or maximum requirements on lot coverage and encroachments on height and setback and distance between buildings and so on. And in many cases, the maximums were quite a bit different, in some cases double what's shown in the conceptual plan. I certainly understand this plan needs a lot of flexibility, but I guess I'd be curious to know how the thing would look if it were built to all of those maximums, because that's the biggest land use impact. Are those evident? Are those studied in the EIS?
I can't visually show that.
Right. Well, I think, you know, this is also something that, this is obviously the Cornell's proposing the text, but the idea is that flexibility is embedded in this, and I understand I think what you're getting at is the fact that there's a lot of flexibility here when compared to the conceptual proposal. And so, you know, I think it's something, maybe the idea is that they could actually show visually or something like that, what that would look like if in fact all of the maximums or minimums were met to the full extent, and then you can kind of compare.
Yeah, and I'm not challenging it. I understand flexibility is needed. I'm just thinking we shouldn't get hung up on the concept because it might not get built. We should focus on what the worst case development scenario is. Yeah.
The campus, the zoning, as you've all read, is quite flexible, and we showed the conceptual proposal. As at this point, Cornell believes this is the direction they want to take this, but the zoning is quite flexible, and it could look somewhat different than this.
Adding a new state-of-the-art institution will educate future New York entrepreneurs, create jobs, and transform Roosevelt Island into New York's own Silicon Valley.